It is 10 o'clock. Welcome in. This is Three Man Front. We're live at Social Taco. Customary every Tuesday. Hope you get an opportunity to swing by, have lunch here at the restaurant. We'll be here until 2 o'clock. Pat and Conrad on location. Molly back in our studios high atop Red Mountain. Landrum Roberts on location. He's working, right? In Colorado?
Working hard or hardly working?
Yeah. Have not seen any medical reports that he has fallen down some type of ski hill or fallen out of a ski lift anywhere. So
a
that's
legitimate
good news.
concern, though.
You know, speaking of that, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I just saw it, and I think it's pretty cool. Remember last week we told you about Lindsey Vonn having that
the awful accident.
The horrendous accident, a week before the Olympics. Well, she just gave a press conference a moment ago. 9 days ago, she tore her ACL.
Whew.
Tore her ACL. Had to be airlifted off of the ski run there in Switzerland. She just announced that she will race this weekend for Team USA. See, that is a true American, Conrad, unlike you and Damien, who won't even watch the Olympics and pull for the USA. But Lindsey Vonn,
that's remarkable,
with a torn ACL, airlifted off the slopes at the World Cup race. She says, I've done this before. I will do everything in my power to be in that starting gate for the Americans.
You know what? I'm convinced. I'm going to watch her now.
Okay, so now you'll watch maybe 10 minutes.
Correct.
Of the Olympics.
Hey, we're making progress.
Yeah.
10 minutes can easily snowball into 15 if I'm feeling nice.
It's interesting because if Landrum, hope it doesn't happen, but if Landrum were to tear his ACL skiing this week.
Oh, he'd be out of commission for a while.
He would not be doing a radio show. But
no.
Meanwhile, Lindsey Vonn does not have an ACL, and now she is going all out for America.
So
she's going all out for you and Damien.
So basically what you're saying is the next time Landrum calls in sick or takes a vacation day,
we
should remind him
about Lindsey Vonn.
Good. Just making sure we're on the same page.
That fired me up. That's pretty cool.
That makes me want to be an American.
Where were you born? No, I'm just curious. Were you born in Maryland? Where were you born?
I was born in Memphis, Tennessee.
Were you really? Which
Believe
hospital?
It or not, I don't know.
Okay. I just didn't know if it was the hospital that Elvis died in.
It was, from what I understand, it was one of those. I was born in Memphis, and very quickly we moved somewhere else.
Maybe you and Mr. Feinbaum were born in the same hospital.
Maybe so. You know what? I'll have to ask him the next time we're enjoying some lovely red meat together.
There's a whole story there.
Yes, there is.
We've got a very busy show on tap for you today. Mike Griffith, we hope to catch up with him momentarily from the AJCDogNation.com. Charlie Potter from Bama Online. He'll join the program at 10:30. Richard Hendricks, former Bama star. You can see and hear his work on the SEC Network, one of the top analysts when it comes to SEC basketball. He'll be on at noon. Michael Bratton from that SEC podcast, the number one podcast in the SEC. He's already got some predictions out for Alabama and Auburn. Already got some Auburn people up here on the terrace giving thumbs down towards Michael Bratton. So he's obviously already hit a nerve with Stan and Don.
Will Hugh Freeze be brought up today?
I hope so.
I hope so, too.
It's not an interview with Michael Bratton without him slamming Hugh Freeze. And Dimitri Ravanos, his normal spot at 1 o'clock coming up on the show. So we have a very, very busy program. Hope to see you here at Social Taco. More legal news in college football. No big surprise. Joey Aguilar, who had gotten out of the Diego Pavia lawsuit last week, hired a new attorney. Yesterday, they have filed a lawsuit against the NCAA, Joey Aguilar has, in the Knox County Chancery Court. Aguilar, who transferred to the Vols before the 2025 season, is seeking to extend his eligibility for an additional season. This is the part that was very interesting to me as I was reading his complaint. It says, after a breakout season as the Volunteers quarterback in 2025, the NCAA is blocking Aguilar from playing a fourth-year Division I football, depriving Tennessee of a gifted quarterback and robbing Aguilar of millions in compensation. End of the quote in the complaint.
You can't tell me that there wasn't a conversation that was, held by whether it was Heupel or somebody else on that staff that was like, hey, man, maybe we should go down this league route and see what happens. Because obviously, right, if you're Tennessee, this is the best case scenario because we've talked about it a lot the last few weeks. You don't have a quarterback, really. And so this is a path for you to have that quarterback. This isn't surprising at all, right? I mean, Joey Aguilar, no offense to him, didn't strike me as a guy that was probably going to last outside of maybe a practice squad in the NFL. So this is an opportunity for him to make the most money he'll probably ever make in his life. And for Tennessee, it's gives them an opportunity to compete this year. So it's not surprising. It is funny, though, that they're just pretty much straight up coming out and saying, yeah, this kid can make millions of dollars. And for Tennessee, like, you're kind of taking away our ability to be competitive. Well, that's kind of your problem because you were outbid for quarterbacks in the portal. You obviously haven't done a good enough developing your recruits to have them ready. It's like a get-out-of-jail-free card for Tennessee.
Aguilar played his 5th season of college football this past season. However, the first 2 were spent at a junior college. He played at Diablo Valley Community College in Central California before transferring to App State for his first 2 seasons of Division I college football. So we'll see what happens. Once again, another player seeking another year of eligibility. I just thought, reading the complaint in which he says that by the NCAA not allowing him to play, you're depriving Tennessee of a gifted quarterback. I mean, that's up for interpretation. And robbing Aguilar of millions in compensation.
It's just the concept of, well, that's not fair. He's good. You can't take him away from us. Well, those are the rules. That's kind of how it works. But, hey, you know what? Good for Tennessee. I'm sure that this will result in him playing in 2026.
Yeah,
I don't have any doubts that he will be on the field next year.
Yeah, I don't know if the Knox County Chancery Court is going to go against Joey Aguilar, just like I don't know if a Tuscaloosa court is going to go against Charles Bediako on Friday.
But there'll be a public outcry, and Rick Barnes will come out and make a comment about his football program doing this, right?
Yes, and Dick Vitale will have a special video podcast in which he slams Tennessee for trying to get Joey Aguilar a 6 year of eligibility.
I just want people to be fair, Pat. Is that too much to ask?
Okay. Joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline, so much legal talk. I just want to talk X's and O's. But let's talk to Mike Griffith from DogNation.com. He joins us now on 3-Man Front. Mike, we're just talking about Joey Aguilar now. He's got a lawyer. He's looking for more eligibility. Like, do you anticipate that this is ever going to stop? Are we just ever going to just see guys say, you know what, I played 6 years of football, it's time to move on?
Yeah, well, until we have that whole collective bargaining agreement, it's going to continue. Everything's going to continue to play out in the courts. This is why that's needed, and I know people don't want to make collegiate athletes employees, but that's what it's going to take to, bring some sort of self-regulation and internal regulation to college football, because right now it's the Wild West.
Mike, do you think that we'll see any sort of – because, I mean, this is different with Aguilar, but the Bediako thing's been a big deal in college basketball with Alabama. Do you think we will see that in college football, whether it's maybe somebody – I know the UFL, right, you've had guys that go to the NFL, but could you potentially see a world where those guys are coming back to college, whether it's this year, next year, or sometime in the near future?
Yeah, you wonder because, there used to be kind of a 5-year clock, right? And it felt like that was standard. You had 5 years to play 4. That was It was what it was. But, now I guess if there's judges in courtrooms that are overruling, NCAA rule, then, yeah, you think it's wide open. And I'll say this, about Alabama and, the former professional player. I feel like, Alabama is a pretty well-known program, and I kind of feel like they're kind of being unfairly targeted on this. I mean, there are some other former professional players that are playing college basketball, and, I kind of understand where Nate Oates is coming from. I'm not saying I agree with it or I think it's right, but if you're paying the guy to win games, and if you're going to judge him on wins and losses, and there's other programs that are using players that have played professionally, why would he put himself and his program at a disadvantage? I mean, on the one hand, you can, take the moral high ground and say, well, we don't want to win with those kind of guys. But if everybody else is using those kind of guys, like I said, it kind of reminds me back in, I think it was 2009 when Lane Kiffin was at Tennessee. And I was keeping up with the number of secondary violations. I don't know if you guys remember this, but he did a television interview. And I believe he either mentioned a recruit or there was a recruit in the background. Anyway, it was a clear-cut violation on a TV interview he did with ESPN. It ended up being a secondary violation, and that triggered a story on, well, who has the most secondary violations in the SEC? Well, the answer was Nick Saban. and Tennessee's fans' answer was, well, if Nick Saban's doing it and winning at Alabama with these secondary violations, we don't care if Lane Kiffin does that. And so when I look at Nate Oates, and I say, okay, he's operating in the gray area. Well, that's what Nick Saban did to build the Alabama football dynasty. So I don't think you can be hypocritical if Coach Saban was able to work in the gray area to build that program and build championships. Why wouldn't Nate Oates also be aggressive and use what resources he has when other teams are doing that? So, and then the point he makes about European professionals being on par with G League, he's absolutely right. Why is it okay for kids that have played in Europe, kids, quote unquote, that are 21, 22 years old when they come here as freshmen? Why is that okay? But we're not going to allow an American kid that played in the equivalent of NBA Europe to come back to college. So I think we really need to stop and look at it and realize that I think Alabama's kind of being, called out on this when there's a lot of other programs that are doing the same thing.
Mike Griffith from DogNation.com. Also, you can follow his work there at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, AJC.com. The NFL is a different animal. I was watching Roger Goodell's press conference yesterday afternoon from San Francisco, and a reporter asked him about all the things that's been going on, referencing Charles Bediako and the other cases that are forthcoming in regards to, college basketball players that go off professional G League and then try to come back. And they asked Roger Goodell, do you foresee something like that potentially happening with the NFL? And he cited the fact that the NFL having the policy of 3 years of college ball before you can come and become a professional, he thinks that is going to kind of curtail anybody potentially coming back, and you don't have a G League type unless somebody went off to the UFL and then decided to go back to college. But do you anticipate, just your prediction, that ultimately somebody will test those waters, whether it's someone that was on a scout team in the NFL or maybe playing spring ball in the UFL, say the Birmingham Stallions, that they would try to go back because they have eligibility and at least test those waters?
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, again, it depends on what courtroom you file in and what judge you get. I mean, that's kind of another, bigger part of the issue here is that our courtrooms aren't even consistent. Our judges aren't even consistent. So when you say that you're going to apply legislation, constitutional law to the NCAA, you're not even going to get a consistent ruling there. I mean, that's why House versus NCAA was filed in Northern California, where they thought they'd have a sympathetic judge to the student athlete, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think you're onto something there. I think that's fair speculation.
Mike, this is kind of a random idea, something that I was talking to somebody about the other day, but dealing with, let's take Joey Aguilar, for example, right? Somebody that may not have a future playing football outside of college and being able to come back and make a lot of money this year. Do you think we're going to have a problem, maybe it's 10 years out, but where you have a lot of these guys that are profiting off of this in college and they have a certain lifestyle, and then once they go into the real world, they don't know how to adapt to that? Because let's say you're going from – maybe you're making $2 million to play college football, and now you're going to make a job making $75,000 a year in a profession. Do you think that we're, maybe a few years out from that, but that being a real problem and a real talking point in college athletics? Because I feel like inevitably something like that will happen.
Well, I think it happens now. I think you see guys that were in the NFL right now that are having trouble. I think about Junior Seau and, just adjusting to life in general, that competition. Where I thought you were going with that is, are we going to have high school kids say they want a 13th year of high school? I mean, if you can have,
That's
what? I'm not
point.
Developed yet.
Yeah.
I didn't get the offer I wanted. I want to go back to high school for another year and play another year of high school football.
That's interesting. I have not thought about that.
Well, and what if you have a kid that reclassifies for a year, so they technically skip a year of high school, and they say, well, now I want that year back?
Wow.
Well, reclassify so they want an extra year. Yeah, we thought he was going to be a senior, but actually he's got another year of high school eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where does it stop, right? I mean, because what's happened, the trickle-down effect is if you're giving these guys extra years of eligibility in college, you're taking away opportunities from incoming high school students, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Or do you build? Is there a gap? I don't think T. Martin would mind me sharing this with you. I spoke with T last week. T's a visionary. I love this guy. I covered him at Tennessee as a quarterback, and he was fantastic. And now he's been coaching for so many years. And if you just Google T. Martin's name, and I'd tell your audience to do that, just look at how many coaching jobs he's had and how hard he's worked to stay in the profession. He was most recently with the Baltimore Ravens, but he's just such a visionary. But the idea that he gave me, and I'm not going to be one of these writers that steals it. I'll give credit where it's due. He says, what about bringing back? This is going to sound at first a lot. What if every college had its own JV program, its own developmental program? Because what's happening is the guys that aren't being played are transferring out. Well, what if you were to have another team at every college? It was like a developmental team, and then you could keep those guys in the fold, and they'd be playing games and getting the sort of experience that they think they need, and maybe even exposure. Do we think there would be a market for that? I bet there would in the SEC. I would tune in on a Wednesday, Thursday night, to watch the Alabama underclassmen against the Georgia underclassmen, and it would also serve as their own kind of practice squad, right? When the upper tier squad, just like an NFL has a 52-man roster, maybe the college programs do too, and then you've got another 53 that are on that other team that are playing games regularly. Then you hold the kids in your program, you can still pay them, and you've got your own quote-unquote, kind of farm team. So I thought that was kind of an interesting idea, to think about ways that programs could retain players and develop them without maybe losing them to other schools, lesser schools.
Mike Griffith, AJC. You can follow his work at dognation.com. How's everything in the properties on the Gulf of America? Everything good?
Yeah, it's funny. I was just down there for the Senior Bowl. It was fantastic. I mean, there's so many restaurants, and I mean, even it was I think 60 when I was down there. I ran a little 5K. Walked on the beach.
Whoa! What? You ran a 5K?
Oh yeah, guys. I'm trying to stay in shape. I got to keep up with the Joneses.
I'm impressed.
Well, it would have been more impressive if I would have ran the half marathon that day, but I just kind of borrowed their course and said I'm doing my own 5K. So 3.1 miles is enough for me. I don't know those half marathon people. I tip my cap, and those that run the marathon, I think they're just crazy. But in all seriousness, man, how much tenacity does that take? I mean, for people that run marathons, I got so much respect for runners, but I digress. My point is, I'm trying to find all the places to eat down. There's so many places.
Have you been to the Coast? The Coast restaurant? Did you go there?
I don't think I've been to the Coast. I don't think I've been to the Coast. I think I did the Acme Seafood House the last time.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
You need to hit Coast up. Yeah, hit that one up. That's what we ate there our final night, staying at the Griffith Ponderosa.
Oh yeah, I've been there. That place is really good.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, really good.
It's really good.
I know. My March is already booked up solid. But there's still room in April and May, so hopefully people will.
Now, do I need to get on the books early? Do I get any kind of preferential booking treatment?
You know what? Well, the fact is that I always give that Instagram, the Gulf Shores Getaway AL.
Yeah.
And I tell people to book direct because, I mean, look, it's no secret. I mean, if you book through Airbnb, there's an extra fee, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you book direct with me, I don't have to put the Airbnb fee on there.
That's right.
Now, people that don't know me from Adam might go, I don't even know this guy. I'm not going to book through. But, if you hear this, you hear us talking about it, and you book direct, I mean, it's a good way to knock 20% off right out of the gate if you're booking direct because we can skip the Airbnb fees and go from there. And it's hard to build that up. I mean, you've got to build up a clientele that's been there and knows you or trust past recommendation or, can look at the website and say, oh, yeah, this is, it is what it is. You can look at the reviews. But once you build that clientele up and they find that place, they want to go back every year because what I said, there's different restaurants and, of course, the beach looks, a little bit different every day. I just saw Gulf Shores was recently ranked the number 2 beach in the country. I think Siesta Key in Sarasota is one, but Gulf Shores number 2 and 32 miles of coastline and it's just beautiful down there. It's just another great part of Alabama.
Well, it's fantastic, and I know I always give Mike a hard time about certain things, but I will not give him a hard time about that because the property is beautiful. We had a great time as a family, hoping to maybe get back down there this summer. So have to go ahead and start looking at the calendar, make sure Mike doesn't shut me out, so I don't get an opportunity.
Yeah, we my buddy, the guy that I bought this from, actually has a couple other ones. So there's actually 3 that are right next to each other, and they have like softball tournaments, volleyball tournaments. We're thinking, man, if people find us, how cool would it be to have your team stay in 3 right next to each other?
Okay, so if
that'd be awesome.
if I'm on the deck, and I'm looking at the pool. Yeah. So the other units are to my left or to the right? that you were just referring to?
They are to the right. Mine's
the
right
right.
in the middle. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep,
Okay.
mine's in the middle center pool, and then I think I'm QQ, and I think RR and SS are to the right.
Now, did
there.
they get the other section built there? Because when we were there, they were finishing up. A
Yeah,
little section.
those are built. Yeah, those are built out. I think there's a couple that they're still being built out, but I think there's 3 of them for sale down there that the builders have built out, and I think there's still 2 in the works. So, yeah, it's come a long way. I mean, and with what's about to happen, and not to get too political, but the interest rates are about to come down. I mean, you see who just got appointed to the. Am I on a sports show still? We're talking a lot of
No,
politics.
hey, no, you're playing to our base. You're good, Mike. I promise.
Yeah, I mean, with this new Fed chairman coming in, all signs point to, lower interest rates.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an exciting time for investors and realtors and people that are looking to buy a house. I'm sure there'll be some first-time home buyer stuff out there. But yeah, I think I'm pretty bullish on our economy right now. We've seen a few benefits from the tariffs start to play out.
That is Mike Griffith. Give her one of the Instagram handle one more time for folks who want to look at your property.
Yeah, it's at Gulf Shores Getaway AL, and I think there's also we got the Facebook page up. Yeah, I mean we're working on a Facebook page. We'll stick with the Instagram from now. When we get the Facebook page built, we'll put the link on there. But it's at Gulf Shores Getaway AL on Instagram.
This will be a great time for folks to go ahead and get their spring and summer activities planned. Mike, always a pleasure. Look forward to catching up with you again next Tuesday.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Take care. That is Mike Griffith from the AJCDogNation.com. Some interesting comments about the potential of high school kids spending an extra year in high school.
I love that he took my question and brought it because I had never even thought about that. And he said that, and I said, you know what? I'll be damned. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
Probably in this state.
You're probably right. He was on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. More three-man front. We are live at Social Taco on Jocks. It's 10:26. Welcome back into Three-Man Front on this Taco Tuesday. Come on by and see us. Doors officially open at 11, but if you tell Michael, our server, that you're part of the wonderful Jocks family, they're going to bring you upstairs and let you get a good seat ready for lunch here at Social Taco.
Well, as we know, flu season is here, so make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. It removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus. It's 100 times more effective than standard air filters and 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. So go and find a dealer near you at Trane.com.
We will let you hear a little bit of what Roger Goodell said yesterday. I asked Mike Griffith that question about, are we going to ever see a college football player that still has eligibility? Are they going to test the waters kind of like Bediako has done? Roger Goodell had some interesting comments about that. He also talked a little bit about the Super Bowl halftime show, which we will get into that as well. We'll also hear a little bit from Ryan Grubb, who is down in Montgomery speaking to the Alabama High School Coaches Association and WAKA Television. Down in Montgomery, had an opportunity to catch up with Ryan Grubb. But before we get into all that, some news broke this morning that there's more leaking going on at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and this time it appears that Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, he will join Bill Belichick by not being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in year
the fix
one.
is in for the Pats.
How about that? So ESPN is reporting that, like Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft did not get enough votes to be in this year's Pro Football Hall of Fame class. Now, Kraft is a first-time Hall of Fame finalist this year, did not receive enough votes from the 50-person panel to be included in the 2026 class. It will be announced Thursday night. It was interesting because there were two questions yesterday towards Roger Goodell about Bill Belichick not being in the Hall of Fame, and just seeing Roger Goodell sweat a little bit and just basically say, well, I don't know who's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like the NFL is not a part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, there is an advisory committee. I think once the Pro Football Hall of Fame says, okay, this is who got voted in.
They know.
Yeah. And so he was trying to act like that he had no idea whether Bill Belichick was in there. But he had two questions about the NFL's involvement and his thoughts on Belichick, and he had kind of diffused that.
So do you think this is the same thing where it's Spygate, Deflategate related? Do you think this is related to some of the other off-the-field situations that Robert Kraft has found himself in? Do you think that that's why? Because, again, I could see people that didn't vote for Bill Belichick being the same people that didn't vote for Robert Kraft.
Possibly. I still contend it goes back to a math equation, and the math equation is players like L.C. Greenwood and some others that were going to be siphoned off the voting list if they did not get enough. And I think folks were like, you know what, Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick both are going to be in the Hall of Fame, so let's, in deference to the guys that potentially are going to be off the rotation.
That's still just so crazy to me because it's like, again, imagine if the College Football Hall of Fame said, hey, Nick, Coach Saban, you were a legend, the best to ever do it. But, man, we got these guys. They want to be in, so you're going to have to wait a year, but you're going to get in. That's bogus. Again, I stand by that. I think that's bogus, but, people vote for the reasons that they vote.
Well, we've done a Pat Ponders question on this before. I believe the moment you retire, you should be eligible. This waiting for 5 years or whatever the case, if you're good enough to be in, then put them in.
Yeah. Even
why wait?
And I also don't understand, because I know some people say, well, what if they come back? Well, it doesn't change what they had already accomplished up to that point. If they were worthy of being in the Hall of Fame, they're still going to be worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. But, oh, well, they'll be in next year. I think we all agree on that.
We're going to go to Tuscaloosa next. Charlie Potter from Bama Online joins the program as we'll talk a little Alabama basketball and some other Alabama athletic department notes. That's next on Three Man Front. It is 10:34. Welcome back in. This is Three Man Front on Jocks. Pat and Conrad. We are live at Social Taco in Homewood. Molly back in studio high atop Red Mountain. Let's go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama now. Charlie Potter does an outstanding job covering the Alabama Crimson Tide for Bama Online. He joins us now on Three Man Front. Charlie, I hope you're doing well.
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's talk about this Alabama basketball team because when you look at being 1-2 with Charles Bediako, it just really has not turned out the way that it was probably drawn up once Bediako decided he was going to try to come back. As you're looking at this team over the last 3 games, what has jumped out the most to you in regards to what Alabama is lacking? Because obviously they're 1-2 right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've been banged up all year. You look at when we talked to Nate before the games or whenever the availability reports come out, it seems like there's just a new name that pops up. So they haven't been healthy, and that's one of the reasons you bring in a guy like Bediako, because they're missing Collins and Keaton Bristow. But, like, a lot of it, especially this last game, though, look, Florida's really good. They're the defending national champions for a reason. But the toughness and physicality, Alabama hasn't really been able to match that, and that's whether it's you look at Florida or Tennessee, those are 2 teams that are kind of built on that approach. And so I don't think Bediako is just a fix for that. I do think, like, the post presence, the rebounding, you look at what Florida was able to do just in terms of points in the paint. They outscored Alabama 72-26. You would think bringing in a guy like Bediako would maybe help that, but it's not just like a Band-Aid, because Alabama in this last game turned the ball over way too many times. I think they gave it up 18 times to 2. Very big discrepancy there just in terms of ball security. Florida's able to score 25 points off of that turnover. So it's a myriad of things. And look, again, like, they haven't been 100% from a health standpoint, and that has hurt them to some degree. But this past game, you get Amari Allen back. Now, granted, you don't want to throw him back into the deep end after he's missed several games against a team like Florida on the road, but he's a guy that many project will be a first-round draft pick. So it's a lot of issues. I know, like, when we'll hear from Nate later this afternoon, I'm sure he'll be, in a bad mood. I'm sure practice will run a little long, and they're working on some things. But it's a situation where, just from a Bediako standpoint, you would think that the post presence, with the way that Aiden Sherrill has kind of taken that next step, would be better, but it really hasn't been against some of the teams that have good front courts.
So, Charlie, obviously some Alabama fans are a little frustrated, especially with the way the season started and maybe the team not living up to some of those expectations. Would you say that maybe the reality for the team this year is that, whether, I don't know who exactly you'd want to put the blame on, but it just seems like a lot of these guys that they identified, whether it was through the portal or through recruiting, that they've just kind of missed on a lot of these guys. When you look at, the Bull Bowens and the Houston Millettes of the world and Jaleel Bethayas, I know Bristow's been hurt, but it seems like you had this collection of guys that the staff was all in on, and whether it's been injuries or just a lack of performance, it just is the reality that they just kind of missed on the talent evaluation process with some of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, the portal class hasn't been the best. I think Taylor Bowen, he's a guy that kind of fits into that category that I was just talking about in terms of being banged up. He only played a couple minutes on the road against Florida, and that's not ideal. But, yeah, like, Jaleel Bethia hasn't played a ton. Keaton Bristow's banged up. Noah Williamson, I think we've seen, he is what he is. I think he's averaging like 1.2 points per game, under 2 rebounds per game. Not even playing double-digit minutes. But it hasn't been great. And now, look, they've gotten, I think, more out of Amari Allen than they expected, so that impacts some guys' minutes. You have Philon, you have Holloway, you have Reitzel. Those are kind of your core guys at the guard positions. But maybe a guy like Houston Millett, he hasn't shot the ball very well at all from 3 this year. I think he's a guy that's – I mean, he might be a hair over 30%, but he's had some dry spells for sure. And the Bethia, I mean – he's a highly touted player, but he is someone that hasn't seen a ton of opportunities in Alabama, and some of it is, just the defensive side of the ball, too many turnovers, things like that. We've seen that when he's got on the floor too. So, yeah, I mean, you look at it, they brought in several players from the portal, and not a lot of them have panned out, and that is a disappointment, and that is probably another reason, one of the several, that Nate tried to bring in Charles Bediako to try to fix some of those things. So, yeah, I mean, I think overall, if you just kind of lay out all the cards from a portal haul this past year, you wouldn't be happy with the hand you're dealt looking at it 21 games into the season. But I think Taylor Boboan's still more than serviceable. He's a starter caliber player from this team. He just has to be available because he's been dealing with a couple different injuries this year.
Charlie, we were kicking around this idea yesterday just about, comparing and contrasting some previous Nate Oates teams and leadership on the court. Who would you say this year's leader is, whether it's on the court, in the locker room? Who on that roster is kind of that guy that is trying to rally the troops, so to speak?
Yeah, the couple guys that Nate Oates has mentioned pretty consistently are Latrell Reitzel and Houston Millett. And those are your guys that are, the veterans in the program. That's to be expected. I think you probably want some more leadership from a guy like LeBaron Filon. He's kind of your general on the floor. He's the guy that's going to be probably a lottery pick if he continues to play the way he's playing. I think he and Holloway are guys that have been more vocal. But it really has come down to Reitzel and Houston Millett. And you look at it, you can tell, I know that Houston Millett maybe isn't producing on the floor like maybe you would like, but he's a guy that he plays his ass off every time he's out there, and I think he's a good example setter, and he's also very vocal in and out of the huddle. So he's a guy that definitely has been in that, and I think they need more of that, honestly, from across the board. And not to say, we're not at practice, we're not, seeing these things outside of games, but I think they could use some more leadership in that regard. And look, I know people are maybe panicking or kind of doom and gloom. Everybody's already looking to change or flip their attention to softball and baseball season coming up. But Florida's a really good team. They embarrass a lot of teams night in and night out. But I do think that Alabama as a whole could use some better leadership. I think they've gotten good leadership. I think it's more so more. I think they need more of these guys to kind of step up and take ownership, and maybe that's already happening after their second loss in 2 games.
Charlie Potter of Bama Online, they're part of the On3 network, joining us here on the Higginbotham Hotline on three-man front. So looking at tomorrow's matchup, Charlie, obviously it's not a must-win game in terms of making the NCAA tournament or anything like that, but how important do you think getting that win is tomorrow night against Texas A&M? Because that's a team that right now, they are at the top of the SEC standings, but really just maybe more so getting some confidence and getting a little momentum going into what will be a very big game down at Neville Arena on Saturday.
Yeah, you got to win your home games, and that's something we haven't seen Alabama do this season. I think they've lost 3 at home, and the last time they lost more than 3 home games was Nate Oates' first season at Alabama. So it's been a minute. They've taken care of business on their home floor. And, look, this isn't going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. Like you said, the Aggies are at the top of the league. Bucky McMillan's done a great job over in College Station. I think they've only lost 4 games this season total. So it's going to be a challenge, and it's a game where it's a little bit of a wonky schedule because Alabama played on Sunday, kind of an abnormal thing in SEC play. We'll see, what they're like coming off of that, but it's a Wednesday game. It's better than a Tuesday, I suppose. But, yeah, it's one of those where in terms of solidifying your NCAA resume, you want to take care of the games at Coleman Coliseum. And so far, when you look back at it, look, the Purdue game earlier in the season, they were the number 2 team in the country. You lose that one. That's a tough one. But you lose at home to Texas. That's one that you don't want to drop. Tennessee is another tough opponent. It is what it is. But you want to take care of these games that you're, for lack of a better phrase, supposed to win. And so they haven't done that as much or as well this year. We'll see how it goes. But I don't know if it's a must-win, but I know Nate Oates and company would like to certainly get back in that win column and kind of change this narrative here going into the weekend.
Last year, Charlie, we were amazed at the fact that the SEC got 14 teams into the tournament record for any conference anywhere. It was amazing. This year, it doesn't look like the conference has those top teams, and we all know that Florida could easily be a Final Four team, but last year we were naming 3 or 4 teams that potentially could cut down the nets for the national championship. Maybe not as deep this year, but When it's all said and done, do you anticipate the SEC to get 9, 10, 11 teams? What's kind of the happy place for you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the league is down compared to last year, but that's to be expected. Last year was just an unbelievable year for the conference. I don't know about 9 teams. You look at it, Alabama is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're ninth right now in terms of standings. A win would put them in the tie for, I guess, 7th with Missouri and Auburn. And so I don't know if it gets down to 9. I mean, I think realistically a conference like the SEC could get 6 or 7 or 8 teams in the league or in the tournament, but it's going to be a kind of a dogfight toward the end of the season. Alabama's schedule, when you look at it, they've got some tough matchups coming up. They play Auburn twice, they get Tennessee again, they get Arkansas. Those are teams right there in the mix for the NCAA tournament, and so we'll see what happens. It's what is it, 10 SEC games left before the SEC tournament?
Yep.
There's still a lot of games to be played. I think it'll sort itself out. But I'd probably go. I think 8 might be the ceiling, and it might be less than that. It's just, again, the league is down this year, but that almost feels unfair to say because of how damn good it was last year.
All right, Charlie, can't let you get out of here before we ask you at least one football question. And you had a great write-up this morning over on 3. I just wanted to see if you could expand on it a little bit for our audience. But you got to talk with some of the guys that are leaving the Alabama program, whether that's to go to the NFL or, to go and carry on their professional lives elsewhere. And they shared some of the players that they're excited to watch in 2026. So could you share maybe a couple of those names with our listeners of maybe some guys that were waiting for an opportunity, but the former players have a lot of good things to say about them for 2026?
Yeah, just closing the notebook on the Senior Bowl, talking with guys like Tim Keenan and Josh Clavis. Now, look, Tim Keenan listed damn near everybody on the defensive side of the ball. I think he's excited about the unit for sure. But I think when you look at the defensive line room that he brings up, the first guy out of his mouth was Jeremiah Beeman. And I think that's someone that people forget about because he suffered a season-ending injury, and that's when we saw London Simmons really emerge because Keenan missed the first 3 games. Jeremiah Beeman was kind of the starter there. He suffers his injury, and then the true freshman is kind of forced into duty. And I thought he played really well as a first-year player. And so I think Beeman and London Simmons are kind of the top guys to know on the defensive line, at least from a returning standpoint. And then you look at a guy like Josh Clavis. Everybody knows, I think at this point, Caleb Edwards played a ton as a true freshman at that spot. He's a guy that started, I think, 6 games. He started whenever Josh Clavis suffered that injury late in the season. So he's a guy I think that many are expecting to be a big part of this offense. But Clavis, they have guys like Pritchett. They bring in Max Sutter, who I think is, close to a top 100 player in the 2026 class. But Clavis said not to forget about a guy like Jay Lindsey, and he's someone we saw kind of wear a bunch of different hats, and he kind of mentioned him as maybe a Robbie Utes type player at the tight end spot that can move around, kind of do the dirty work, maybe even play some fullback. He's not quite as big as Robbie, but he's a guy I think that can play and fill multiple roles for this Alabama offense. So maybe some underrated names, maybe names that we're not talking about as much, but their former teammates are certainly high on these guys going into the 2026 season.
That is Charlie Potter. You can follow his work there at Bama Online. Charlie, always great to catch up. Hope to talk to you again very soon.
Yeah, guys, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks,
That's Charlie Potter joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. We continue on. We're live at Social Taco in Homewood. Come on by and see us. The door's officially open in about 11 minutes. Don't forget it will also be Friday at Craps on 280 in conjunction with the Birmingham Stallions. So we hope to see you, not today, maybe Friday. So come on by and get a chance to get some great tacos and other Mexican cuisine.
Chicken
here.
feathers.
That's right, chicken feathers as well here at Social Taco. All that straight ahead here on Jocks. It's 10:52. Welcome back. We are live at Social Taco in Homewood. Come on by and see us. Appreciate Charlie Potter, Mike Griffith already joining the show. Later on, Richard Hendricks, former Alabama basketball star. Also now, of course, you can see and hear his work there on the SEC Network. He'll be on at noon. SEC Mike, the SEC.
Oh, I can't wait.
SEC podcast.
So excited.
Yeah, he'll be on at 12:30, and Dimitri Ravanos will be on at 1 o'clock. As I mentioned earlier, Ryan Grubb, he spoke to the Alabama High School Coaches Athletic Association down in Montgomery last week, and WAKA television, they had an opportunity to catch up with Ryan Grubb. Take a listen to what Ryan Grubb had to say about Bama quarterbacks, running game, and all the above.
Coach Ryan Grubb from the Alabama Crimson Tide. Coach, you're here with a lot of high school coaches in Alabama. How important is recruiting in Alabama to you?
Oh, it's the lifeblood of the program. It starts here. It starts in Alabama. You look at a couple of guys we brought in this year with EJ and Sedarian, and that's what Alabama's been built on for a long, long time.
Yeah, what stands out to you about those two guys?
Wow. They're already here on campus, back in Tuscaloosa, but really, there's a lot of physical characteristics that both of them have. They're outstanding players, but the maturity and the mindset that those two guys have already at this point in their career has been really impressive. So I'm excited to see what they can do this year. They're not going to have to wait long to get on the field.
And another young guy is Keelan Russell. You've got a year and a half with him in the program now. What have you learned about him?
Yeah, Key is a special kid. Our quarterback room in general, I think a lot of people were waiting to see what we do in the portal, and with Austin Mack and Keelan Russell, we got exactly who we need. They're two of the best quarterbacks in the country. Keelan's special. He's got incredible vision, mindset, and just his intelligence on the field is special.
You're making some changes. What improvements do you want to see on the offensive line?
Well, I know everybody's dying to see a little bit better in the run game. Obviously, I would be one of those people, and I think for us, the physical mindset that we got to have week in and week out in the SEC to be successful running the football will be paramount to how we can play next year on offense.
That was Ryan Grubb speaking with WAKA television from Montgomery, Alabama. Well, at least
I'm glad to know he, too, wants the run game to improve. That's good. I was worried he didn't want it to improve.
Yeah, he's identified a problem there, Conrad.
Yeah, a little bit. But, hey, we got an answer to a question we had yesterday, which was, is Xavier Crowell already on campus? And according to Ryan Grubb, he is down there. And I saw where he did another interview, and he had mentioned, talking about Sedarian Morgan and Crowell, that those are two guys that will be on the field sooner rather than later. So, reason for optimism for Alabama, but that run game's got to get better, man. Got to get a lot better.
No doubt about it. 1 hour in the books, 3 more to go. We're live at Social Taco. Come on by and see us. Doors are open. Folks are starting to make their way up here to the Taco Terrace. You can, too. Stop by and see us. We'll be here until 2 o'clock. This is 3-Man Front on Jocks.